Our mission is to encourage people and educate people, encourage people to go vote. Obviously, we're pro-Bernie people and we want him in office. But bigger than that, for me, it's about empowering people to know that their voices matter. Democracy is not a spectator sport. You can't sit at home and complain about things that you want to see change in the world, but not actively participate. And I think it's really easy in America to forget that it's a luxury to vote. Most of the world doesn't have that luxury. And it's so hard to get the vote done or get your vote counted in America right now, which is not democracy. Our country's kind of more functioning as an oligarchy right now, where with closed and open primary systems, not no automatic registration at 18, it's really difficult to vote. So I feel like it does take groundwork movements and groundwork mobilizations, which is what we're trying to do, to say, here's how you register, here's how you vote. Do you know your polling location? Here's how you get to your polling location. Make a plan, bring your friends, bring your family. Nothing's going to change until we actively participate. Yeah, Bernie Sanders has torn things apart, right? He has gone against the establishment and gone against the system and hasn't spoken from a place of needing to abide by any rule because he's tied to corporate financing, or he's tied to lobbying, or he's tied to greed. He's tied to integrity, he's tied to truth, he's tied to honesty, and he's tied to what's best for the people. What's best for the 99% of this country and for our future generations, our future ancestors. And that's what's so moving to me about him, and I think that's why he's able to go out there and talk about fracking the way he does, why he's able to go out there, talk about equal rights the way he does, and talk about foreign affairs the way he does, and he's really exploiting a lot of things about our government that a lot of news stations don't want to talk about, most politicians won't talk about. And for too long our elected leaders have been running their agendas based on personal agendas, personal lobbying, money, whatever. And Bernie Sanders doesn't have any of that. So he really is able to have an open dialogue about what's actually happening in the country and say, this is corrupt, this is corrupt, this is corrupt. Because this happens, you stay suppressed. Because this person is a billionaire, all of you, millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of people in this country suffer. And that's not okay. And I'm going to do something about it. And you know what? He will. Because for 50 years, he's been on the right side of history. He was an activist before he was a politician. He's still an activist as a politician. And you look at his legislation, everything he said he's going to do, he's done. Everything he said he wouldn't do, he still hasn't done. Obviously the biggest question is people go, well, is he actually going to be able to get anything done? And I look at them and I say, what kind of a question is that? That right there, that is what our society wants us to ask. We are taught fear from the time we were born. We are taught to fear everything. We're taught to conform. But conformity doesn't win any revolution, right? Conformity didn't win women the right to vote. It didn't win the fight against civil rights, our ongoing fight for civil rights. Not against civil rights, for civil rights. And Bernie recognizes that. So I say to them, I'm like, look, if our country was thriving, right? If we had a thriving civilization where there wasn't the highest rate of imprisonment that we've ever experienced, that there wasn't the highest rate of poverty, then maybe taking a risk on someone might be a little trickier. But right now, our country is suffering. We're at ground zero. We're at the bottom. So why not take a risk on someone who's offering us universal health care and public education, free college? He wants to tax more from the upper class so that he can actually implement those things. And I think that there's no one I know personally who has money who would be considered part of that upper 1%, who wouldn't want to be taxed more if they knew that that extra money was going to better the lives of this entire country. Yeah, I'm just a person, and that's what I keep reminding people. People are like, oh, it's so great to see you out here. I can't believe you're on the road. I can't believe you're doing all this. And I'm like, why? I'm a woman. I'm a human being on this planet, and I experience what you experience, even though our stories are different. But I see your pain, and you see my pain, and I see your trauma, and you see my trauma. And it's our responsibility to reconnect with one another and rebind community, because community is where we started, and community is where we're going to end if we're going to heal. And our society, our country needs a lot of healing, and our world needs a lot of healing, and America has the power, really has the power to start healing the rest of the world. And so when people bring up the acting component of it, I'm like, look, that's just my label. That's just one of my labels, you know? One of your labels is your newscaster, one of their labels is their volunteer, but we're all human beings going through our own independent journeys, and I feel like it's our responsibility to continue refurbishing our planet so that we can provide a landscape for future generations to thrive upon.